What a fascinating topic today for the TEDx. The fragments of infinity. It is a topic which has scientific, spiritual, and also philosophical connotations. So I am going to dwell in all these three dimensions of this topic, the fragments of infinity. As a scientist, when I look at many discoveries which could look like a fragments, it really made an infinite impact on the humanity, the universe. And look at the galaxy, look at the universe, that if you fragment it to the minutest level, I look at the atoms, even subatomic particles, atoms to molecules, molecules to elements, elements to materials, living, non-living, and also making the whole biosphere, atmosphere, the earth, the galaxy, and the galaxies, which are appearing, disappearing into the black hole, like Stephen Hawking says, that galaxies are infinite. So that is what is fragments of infinity, that you have the universe which is infinite, and you have the fragments right up to the atom and subatomic particles. And when you look at some of the, I will take examples from biology, from physics, from mobility, telecommunication, that how these fragments of discoveries, it really made an infinite impact. Look at the penicillin, which is a life-saving drug, which was actually, it was discovered accidentally. When Alexander Fleming, when he was culturing a bacteria on a petri dish, and then he found after he came back from holidays that the whole thing was contaminated by a mold. And then somebody would have thrown it out as a contamination of the culture. But then he looked at that, the bacteria did not grow in the place wherever the Penicillium notatum, that's the mold which has grown there. So he thought it might have an antibacterial effect. So this is how that fragment of discovery today, it has led to a numerous cascade of the antibiotics, antifungals, antivirals, and also now getting into immunity, and then coming into vaccines, host-pathogen relationship, leading to the development of adjuvants, vaccines. Then in vaccines itself, we are looking at multivalent vaccines, edible vaccines. So this is how the small fragment of accidental discovery of penicillin then led to the whole life-saving drugs, changed the whole paradigm of medicine. And this is what is the theme, the fragments of the infinity. And then when you look at this, move on to the physics, Sir C.V. Raman Effect, everybody knows Raman Effect. How did he, that curiosity of looking at the sky which is blue, looking at the sea which is blue, then it led to the discovery of the Raman Effect. And then he talked about the scattering of light. Today the Raman Effect has led to a multiple applications. What you see here today, the diagnosis and detecting a chemical, offline detections. So all this came out from that one small discovery of the Raman Effect, which is still, it is growing. We are still exploring how we can continue to make an impact on this society using this Raman Effect, much to be explored. Look at the mobility and the person who invented the wheel. It's a disruptive technology. Then looking at the first, the steam engine, which actually created the first industrial revolution. Now we are talking about industry revolution 4, 5 and so on. Then it led to a number of the propulsion, control, guidance, navigation, and starting from the steam engine to trains, aircrafts, missiles, and also the spacecrafts. Now we are exploring the southern part of the moon, the Chandrayaan-3, which we landed, landmark. Similarly, we are looking at how do we go to Mars and inhabit, and can we move to Venus, and can we look at the sun sitting in Aditya L1 location. This is what is the power of fragments of the research and innovation, which started with small inventions. Now coming to the communication, Alexander Graham Bell, he invented the telecommunications, the telephone. And then that led to a multiple way of telecommunication today. Look at these mobile phones, then you are talking about internet, internet of things, and artificial intelligence, and machine learning, deep learning, and then exploring the whole, the canvas of application of AI and in various domains has led to a number of applications. Similarly, can we create this, augment the power of the mind by artificial intelligence, which has tremendous application. So this is the power of the fragment of that invention which led from a telephone and then now right up to the communication and multiple dimensions. It has not stopped there. It is still continuing. That's why it is infinite. Now let me look at my own life. You know, how I was created. The mother, ovum of my mother, sperm of my father. When it met, zygote was formed, and that zygote led to the formation of morula, blastula, then differentiating into tissues, organs, organ systems. The Sthula Sharir came into existence with mind, body, intellect. So this one, hailing from a small village, that's me, coming from a small village in Tamil Nadu, which is Kila right over there, and which has got only 100 families. The school is only up to 8th standard. So I was propelled to go to Delhi and to work in the Defense Research and Development Organization. And then I could make fragments of research to make the soldiers fit enough and happy enough, and also they have the all wherewithal to work in the extremes of environments like high altitude, cold, desert. So my research, starting from selection, placement, nutrition, clothing, personal protective equipment, military motivation, man-machine interface, ergonomics. So all these aspects ultimately led to the soldiers to function effectively in different extremes of environments and operational conditions. This is the selection. We formulated the whole selection process. What are the soldier-like qualities? How do you test whether the boy or girl coming for recruitment has those qualities in them? So using psychometric tests, we were able to assess using a 3-pronged selection system. So today it is there. And looking at the food you need to give, the army marches on its stomach, it is said. So we have worked out the calorific composition and also the carbohydrates, proteins, fats, minerals, vitamins, trace elements, how much we need to give, because we need to keep the soldiers fit and motivated. So this is the nutrition. Then comes the clothing. Because in soldiers, just not only uniform of Army, Navy, Air Force, but they have specialized clothing like submarine escape suit, anti-G suit for a fighter pilot, NBC, nuclear, biological, chemical, weather protection, environmental protection. You have the personal protective ensembles. So you have specialized clothing, including the respiratory mask, which we developed, that's being used by the soldiers, which can even work in nuclear, biological, chemical warfare environment. So that is high altitude, cold, desert, underwater, aerospace. In all this, our soldiers are able to operate in extremes because of the research which I was part of, that fragment, part of it which led to the operational efficiency. Then there are some clinical spin-off studies as well, like 2,3-DG, 2-deoxy-D-glucose, which is used for protecting a person from nuclear attack. And then cold injuries, when a person is affected in high altitude with cold injuries, frostbite, we have the Allokel, which created the protection and also treatment for the cold injuries. Then I also carried out a study in the Arctic polar environment, which I will tell you a little later. So we looked at how does the human physiology get acclimatized to high altitude, how long one takes to get acclimatized, how close a person comes as compared to the permanent natives living in the high altitude. So we carried out physiological, biochemical, psychological, clinical studies, which in turn led to the formulation of acclimatization schedule, tenure of posting, and also keeping all the methods to improve their operational efficiency at high altitude. Then like exercise, for example, we put them on treadmill. I was the leader of the first Indo-Soviet expedition to Arctic, the way ahead in 1990-91. But what we were looking at, is it possible for a tropical soldier who hails from a low latitude country like India get acclimatized to the polar environment? Because in high altitude, you have a cold and combination together. Can we just keep the soldiers fit to fight in those conditions? So we measured the biorhythms, sleep, the physical efficiency, cognitive efficiency like concentration, memory, learning efficiency, eye-hand coordination, all these were monitored in polar environment. I was the leader of that expedition where I had 16 Soviet soldiers, 10 Indian soldiers, 8 Indian scientists, 8 Soviet scientists looking at this. Is it possible for a soldier, Indian soldier, to get acclimatized to polar environments? Then we looked at the nuclear, biological, chemical warfare agents, because the COVID is a wake-up call that biological warfare can happen. So we have found methods for early detection, personal protection, collective protection in the field shelters and the surface shelters, underground field shelters, and also decontaminating the environment so that the environment gets cleaned up. So decontamination, and also field shelters. So these are the ways by which NBC environment, our soldiers can be protected. Look at the desert. The soldiers operate in 55 degrees Celsius ambient temperature in deserts. And then inside the tank crew compartment, the soldier will be exposed to about 65 degrees Celsius because of the radiative heat. So how do you keep the soldiers fit to fight? So we have developed a cooling suit as well as the noise, vibration, toxic fumes which you feel in the tank crew compartment. How do you protect a soldier? So we have provided all the system for the protection from the maladies of these operations in the desert inside a tank crew compartment. Ergonomics, how do you match the man's efficiency with the machine capability? So the ergonomics and human factors help you to develop the equipment which is matched with the human capability, and we also train the people to match with the machine capability. This is what is ergonomics, which we use for the soldiers when you develop platform like tank crew compartment, engine room of a ship, cockpit of an aircraft or a spacecraft. So we look at all this, design of that will be anthropometrically and ergonomically conducive for the people to operate. Now whatever we have done in these conditions for the soldiers, it has a lot of spin-off. Like in the fighter pilot who works on the light combat aircraft Tejas, which is our own aircraft, in that we used onboard oxygen generation system, which in turn will be able to sieve out the nitrogen and keep concentrating the oxygen. We developed it for a fighter pilot. Today it's used for corona patients. So you see thousands of lives were saved by DRDO technology. The oxygen concentrator is nothing but a zeolite sieve which filters out the nitrogen, concentrates the oxygen. Similarly, we developed the critical care ventilator. So all these life support technologies which I talked about and many more that have a lot of spin-offs. So it is not only benefiting soldiers, but benefiting the society at large. So what I want to say is that whatever fragments of efforts you make, the research and innovation you carry out, ultimately the God's grace has to come on you. Then the fragments get integrated and the impact becomes infinite. This is what I experienced when I was able to work with Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, who was the president, who was my chief, who was my boss, who was my friend as well. And then we were able to work, I was able to work with Dr. Raja Ramanna, creating a beautiful the systems for the nuclear protection. So like this I was able to work because I had the blessings of the infinite, the God. So what we need to do is, whatever we do, that we need to create a happy world, peaceful world, harmonious world, where everybody is healthy, happy and peaceful. So let us create that happy world by fragments of our efforts, and also with the blessings coming from the infinite, that we will be able to create that Satyug in this world, in this universe. Let us create that. This is what is my life mission, is how do we create a happy world through the fragments of our efforts, and with the blessings coming from the infinite, we will be able to make that happy world. Thank you so much.